Hey everybody, welcome to Dealmaker Zoom. I really like seeing everybody. I'm now thinking I need to do this more often. Um, Besides hanging out with my buddy Jeff right here next to me and people like Chuck, I also get to see like Dealmaker Central Texas and Orlando and Atlanta. You guys are all popping in, which I love. And it's a nice way to actually see you guys visually, which is awesome. It's good to see you. So there's a lot going on with Quest. How many of you guys got a letter from Quest a week or so ago that they had sold and moved into a, okay. How many of you guys have questions about all that? Okay, all right. So I'm gonna give Jeff Watson a minute to get in. We'll see if he jumps in here. Um, and we'll see if he gets on because he was on the board with Quest, so he's the best one to answer all those questions. Here's the practical side. I did a loan with Quest this week on a wrap, my favorite, right, Chuck? We'll talk about wrap lending a little bit. So with a wrap, I had part of my IRA went to fund, and then part of somebody else's. I'll see if she's on. Oh, Dee, you're on. Okay. Dee Hammond was my other part. She was my co-lender. And Dee submitted her paperwork to Quest Monday afternoon, and they wired on Wednesday afternoon. So it took about 48 hours. And after talking with the folks at Quest, they said that's sort of what they expect. So I've got another loan or two coming up like next week. And for anybody doing the wires in and out of Quest, it used to be 1 to 2 days. It's now, I would say, 2 to 3 days. But the one, D, it worked out okay. You had to call Quest a couple times to double check it's making it through. Corey's saying that was faster than his last one. But we got it, didn't we, D? Was it real painful, or did you make it through okay?
Only painful because I like to be, I don't want to have anyone waiting on me.
Yeah, I do
So
too.
that was the only painful thing about it. But Quest got it done. So we got it done and funded. So I'm happy about it.
Okay. Oh, Rebecca, it's good to see you. I didn't know you scooted in. And Jenny. All right, awesome. I have so many friends on here. I love it. Mississippi, Houston. Tell everybody where you're from in the chat. We might as well network a little bit, don't you think? Because your network equals your net worth. Um, and I just made a post this morning. It was on the 3 types of relationships. Transactional, that's just people you sort of do some deals with. That's okay. Transformative, those are the people that really help you become a better person and a better investor. That's where I want to focus. And then the last one was toxic. Has anyone ever had a toxic relationship? Everyone, those are the ones you want to get rid of, okay? And sometimes they're the hardest ones to get rid of, but you really need to. All right, so Jeff and Chuck, you're both on. Why don't you take a second and introduce yourselves to everybody? Jeff, Chusky?
I think Chuck is muted, so I'll jump on first, give him a
Okay,
minute.
good.
So I'm Jeff Shahusky. I think probably a bunch of you guys already know who I am through Inner Circle and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm a 20-year real estate investor and a 15-year lender. So there's an awful lot of fun and interesting things, which we'll call the bad stuff interesting. Things that have happened over the years. Toxic people, unfortunately, are everywhere. The unfortunate reality is that the vast majority of toxic people don't know they're toxic, and
That's called being a narcissist.
Yeah.
Tim, you and I were talking about one yesterday.
Yeah. So it's always interesting because, one of the things that I know I've preached on and off, and I'm going to try to phrase it a little different than what I normally do, just to be a little more concise, but it doesn't matter if we're talking about flipping a house, having a rental, or being a lender. You have to establish money rules. And that's how you help avoid a lot of the toxic things that happen, regardless of what you're doing. So the money rules are what really set us all apart and set us all up for more success. So that's kind of what I'm about, is just trying to help people figure that stuff out and develop those things.
Why don't you give us a couple of those money rules, Jeff? It's very intriguing. Who would like to give some money rules? There's a couple.
Nobody, money rules. Nobody likes to follow.
Yes,
Yes,
it's
please.
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute. I'm gonna mute everybody. Jeff, you're gonna have to unmute. Yeah.
All right,
Here's that? You don't go anywhere, do you?
There we go. All right, much better.
all right, I'm back too. So money rules, like if you're doing a flip, I like to create a set of rules for my flips where I actually do 3 different analyses every time I do one. I do one as a flip, I do one as a rental, and then I do one from the back end forward, typically on the flip side, which means I'm looking at the final prices and working my way backwards because that's where I find the mistakes in my math. And so for me, that's a rule, right? Every single time without fail, I triple check my numbers. I want to know that if I'm doing a flip, if it accidentally turns into a rental, because sometimes it happens, I want to know it's going to work as a rental. And, you know, if I'm going to sell it as a flip, I want to know what the end result is, not what I'm going to call the 75% rule, which nobody really understands what that means, but 75% of your success is the initial analysis you do. Most people don't do simple things like this. Is another money rule that's part of every both loan I do and flip or rental is I sit down and actually calculate out what my carrying cost is per day. And on flips, it's the most important number to know, because every time a contractor says I can't show up and he takes an extra 10 days to get there, that carrying cost, you just paid 10 days worth of carrying costs and got no benefit from it. So where does that carrying cost come from? Comes from your profit, right? Comes right from the back end. So that's just a couple of examples of just different things that I do as far as money rules
Like
go.
it, Jeff. Here's another one. When people are doing BRRRR and doing their rentals, they don't realize how long the seasoning is before they can refi. Most of the DSCR lenders have gone to 6 months. Now you can still find like local regional banks, like I've got here in Virginia, that'll do under 6 months. But 6 months of carrying costs is a lot. And you can't really start the appraisal until you're at 6 months. So it's more like 7, 7.5. Also, as a lender, if you're doing 6-month loans with landlord borrowers, they're never going to achieve that 6 months. And you need to know that going in.
Yeah.
Good points. Chuck Glover, can you unmute and say hello? Where did you go?
Hello.
Hey, there you are.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
So introduce yourself.
Well, Chuck Glover, and I've been a lender. I've been in real estate investing for a little under 5 years, and I've been a lender for a little under 5 years. So pretty much that's what I've done since my entry into the into the field of real estate investing, as being a private money lender. And a tip I've picked up along the way is banks and mortgage companies and a lot of institutions that do loans are in the paperwork business. But I look at us as private money lenders as being in the people work business instead of the paperwork business. Of course, there's paperwork involved, but first and foremost comes the relationships. So as a private money lender, I get to meet borrowers face to face, spend some time, sit down over coffee for an hour, a couple times or so, things like that, to really develop relationships. So I've sort of come to my little philosophy, I guess, is not so much use the word networking as use the word connecting. And I know it's just a matter of semantics, but to me, connecting in my mind goes further than just exchanging business cards, which is what a lot of people see networking as. Coming to a large room of fellow people and passing out business cards, exchanging phone numbers. But it's about having some time together after that. So that's me.
I love it. And Chuck, I appreciate you helping us in Orlando in October. Is going to be awesome. Chuck as well. So I'll put that link in a minute. Now, Jeff Watson, I saw you come in. Can you unmute? I don't know where you are. There's a lot of people on Zoom here.
Good morning.
Hey, there you are.
I'm in my happy place. I thought this was starting at the top of the hour, 11 o'clock.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all
No, this-
good. I mean,
So
Then
everyone
Jeff-
knows, like this just, Jeff and I were talking about this Tuesday. Here we are on Zoom.
yeah,
It was really
But-
quick.
I was working the phone on a private lender. He's filling me up to date on a deal that Quest should be funding today. That I'm buying on a property, and we're
Good.
starting to work the next deal already. And it's a wrap loan, and it's all the stuff we're here to talk about. I'm just working the business, just like Chuck
Love it.
talks about.
Yep, I shared with everybody the practical side of Quest right now, and because you helped Dee and I with the wrap this week. You do all of our loan docs.
Yeah.
So thankful for that. And Dee submitted that to Quest Monday, and we had the wire on Wednesday. It's really not that much different. It used to be 1 to 2 days. It's sort of 2 to 3, but 48 hours and we had it.
Well, we're at 72 hours with Equity Trust and still wondering.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
the
saying.
reality of it.
Just saying, okay?
So Jeff, let's talk about Quest. I asked, how many of you guys have a Quest account and received a letter in the last 2 weeks? There was a ton of people, Jeff.
Okay.
Tell
right.
us your take on everything, because you had the front row seat on the board.
Yeah, I had the front row inside the trenches seat on this for the last several months. And I'm going to start out by addressing a rumor that I just heard yesterday.
Ooh, a new rumor?
A new rumor. The rumor is that Quest got in trouble because of a bunch of risky real estate investments that they made.
Oh, I've heard that.
Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing. Let me tell you what went on. Very simply put, what happened to Quest happened to every other bank in the United States of America. We put uninvested client cash into certificates of deposit. Yes, I know, scary, aggressive, risky certificates of deposit, where you could lose it all. I'm being really sarcastic, folks, okay? We put it into certificates of deposit. Yes, the interest rates went up. The CDs weren't as easy to handle. I truly grant you that. And the Texas Division of Banking knew for 5 years. They knew for 5 years. 5 years that that's where Quest was putting the uninvested client cash into certificates of deposit bought through UBS, this big bank, okay? And for 5 years, it was fine. And then October of last year, all of a sudden it wasn't. Instead, that money needed to be in demand deposit accounts. Put it in on Monday, take it out on Wednesday, put it back in on Friday. And that was the problem. That was the problem. That
They've
began
been doing that for a long time, right? And they've been through the audits.
This is the industry practice, and Quest has been doing this for 20 years.
As do all the other self-directed custodians.
As do most of the other self-directed custodians. Not all of them, but most of them. Most of them. Now, here's what happens. As a result of this, Quest will leave the money in the CD. If the customer needs the money and we don't have it, we got to break a CD. If we got to break a CD that's at a negative value, we make up the difference from operational cash. It comes out of the company's bottom line. And we've been doing that. Texas did not like that anymore. You might also notice that Quest was the last, shall I say, the Alamo of self-directed in the state of Texas. I don't want to get too personal, but the Quest was the last company chartered and licensed in the state of Texas doing self-directed custodial work. The other ones before us got put out. And so now we were the last. So what happened? When the Texas Division of Banking looked at it and said, Mr. Long, we don't think we like what you're doing. We're going to be really aggressive, and we don't want you to pay yourself a salary anymore. And we want you to put $10 million into restricted capital or sell the company. So That's a lot of money. How many of you can reach right into your hip pocket and pull out 10 mil? That's what I thought. All right. So, I mean, Quincy looked at him and said, give me some time. Oh, no, we need this in 90 days. And so then it was time to sell it. So that's what we did. We had multiple offers. We had multiple offers. We had people banging on the door and didn't have the space to talk to them. So we picked the best of the best of the best, and that was Inspira out of Chicago, because we already knew from how Inspira had handled the acquisition of Newview out of Orlando, Florida. We already knew how they treated the people, what they were doing, what the customers thought, and so on. We already knew that. That was the deciding factor. Okay. So now there's a story that I've not said before. John Heyer didn't even know all those nitty gritty details, and Heyer knows a lot because Heyer gets told a lot, trusted friend. So so if you think that Quincy was stealing money, you're so wrong. It's crazy. If you think it was risky real estate investments, you got nothing to back that theory up. We can show you the numbers. So the other thing I'm going to tell you is we started reporting all of this in detail on statements that went out in January and February of this year. And you know what? Not one phone call, not one question, not one person asking. We put it right out in print. Hey, read it, folks. Here's what's going on. Nobody said boo. But the moment it gets out that Quincy sold Quest Trust, the vultures, the gossipers, the profiteers come charging on in, because why? Oh, here's a chance. Here's a chance for us to try and grow some business. And one of the people that really, really has been aggressive about this, and he has been, and I have told him straight up, dude, you're spelling fear. People are saying it. I'm seeing it. I got it proof in writing to you. One of these is someone that used to work at Quest that we had to part ways with. We had to part ways with him a few years ago. I'm going to say it again. We had to part ways with him a few years ago.
We know who you mean.
And I'm not going to name any names. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that. All right. So now let's talk about what you do if you're a Quest account holder. First thing is steady on. Do not panic. Do not react. Do not switch. Do not move. Keep doing deals. We're funding deals this week.
I did one. It worked fine. You did one, Jeff, right?
Yep.
I've got another coming up next week.
I've got money from Quest funding into a deal today. Okay. We're chugging right along. We're doing business. Now, at some point in time, there will be a name change. And it will no longer be Quest Trust Company. Instead, it will now be Inspira, or whatever their full name is. When you have to do a new investment, your new paperwork will now reflect the new name. And when you have to sell an asset like a house that's titled in the name of Quest Trust Company, you're going to have to retitle the house with a deed from Quest to Inspira, and then the money can go into the Inspira account. It's one extra piece of paper. It's one extra hop in this game of hopscotch. It's nothing to lose sweat over. It's nothing to lose sleep over. It's nothing to panic or freak out about. It's pretty simple stuff. Now, somebody's going to say, well, Jeff, what about my solo 401k plan docs? Yeah, guess what?
I didn't even know there were two different solo 401ks. So
yeah,
some of them are okay and some
two different categories. Yeah. And for those of you that are wringing your hands, and I don't think there's any of you on the call. Okay. I don't think there's any of you on the call, but you're wringing your hands over your solo 401k docs. Guess what? I got bad news. The gravy train is ending. You got such a cheap deal. No one wants it. You're now going to have to pay market. I'm sorry.
What's sort of the
subsidy
cost difference, Jeff? What is it? Do you have a feel for it?
I have no feel for it. I don't know what other people are charging. I don't know what they're charging. I don't pay attention to it. For
Okay.
those of you that rented more than just the plan docs, for those of you that got a service provided by Quest, you're staying put with us. Now I'm going to give you this, and you guys are going to love this, okay? Remember, Quest was sitting on $3 billion worth of assets. Okay, we got $3 billion. The solo 401k stuff that we're not keeping, that Inspira doesn't want, is only $900,000 cash.
Wow.
It is not even a thimble in the drop of a bucket in the ocean. But that's what we get. We get a tornado over the eyedropper instead of we worry about where the swimming pool is. Okay?
Okay.
Does anybody have a feeling that I'm not being candid? Does anybody have a feeling that I have no emotions or passions or feelings about this? That's what I thought, because I have been living and sleeping this for 10 months. I've been to Austin, Texas. I've been face to face with the regulators. I have spent untold number of hours on the phone with them, on Zooms with attorneys for this department and this people and that group. And I am so absolutely thrilled that when you get to this point in time and you create transition away from a heavily regulated authoritarian bureaucracy to something that is much more easy to use, back over to South Dakota where most everybody else is, because they don't have to have they didn't have a physical presence in Texas. So now that we're over in South Dakota and Illinois, we're back over where everybody else lives. That's where Inspira is. They're regulated in not one, but 2 states. There's a lot of people you got money with that aren't regulated at all because they're administrators, not custodians. Just might want to think about that.
Good point.
But the other thing is the customers are being taken care of. And earlier this week, it was reported to me that over 50% of the current Quest employees have already received and accepted written job offers from Inspira. Not transitional, not temporary, but hey, here's what your job is with us. Yes, it looks a lot like you were doing for Quest. The good news is you will now be doing it from home instead of from an office. Now, has everybody gotten their offer yet? No, because they're systematically working their way through the process. Will everybody get an offer? Probably not everybody, but the vast majority of all the employees.
Than people realize. How many employees are there at Quest?
At the time of this, there was about 100. We had scaled back from close to 140, and we had scaled back, and so now we're down there. Yeah.
Okay.
I will not be on the board at Inspira, but I'm going to remain on the board with Quest Trust for probably another year.
Whew, it's a lot of work, Jeff. Thank you.
And you know what I get paid for it?
How much?
Nothing. Nothing.
Understand.
Nada. Zip.
Well, we all
Zilch.
appreciate it. That's the beauty of being on a board. But we do appreciate it. How many on the Zoom today would say Quincy Long helped them get rolling on self-directed IRAs? Myself. Okay.
Massively. Massively.
I talked to Quincy on the phone. He told me, Jeff, he said, I'm 62 and I have Parkinson's, and it's time to let the baby go.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I mean, that was the other factor is Quincy had been battling Parkinson's for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Yep. But I'm gonna tell a little story.
Okay.
Some of you else might have been in the room, but I think it's a really appropriate story because I know Jeff Shahusky and I are mourning, and I know Jim, you are too, the morning of the passing of our mentor and friend Dyke Spotiford from last week. But I remember a moment in the Atlanta Hilton Garden Hotel outside of the Atlanta airport, and an IRA class being taught by Quincy Long, Dyke Spotiford, and an accountant out of the Carolinas. I can't remember his name right now. And it was the only time I've ever heard Dykes misspeak just one word. And Quincy was on it, and Quincy corrected him. And when Quincy said that a tax qualified distribution is from if you have had a Roth IRA, not that particular Roth IRA. If you're 59 and a half and you've had a Roth IRA for 5 or more years, and that one word, that one vowel that makes a word was an epiphany to me, that I spent the next 5 minutes just sitting there in beautiful, blissful la la land as all these questions were coming together on me. And I'm like, here I am, I'm learning from some of the most amazing guys in the planet. And one vowel that makes up a word changes the way I'm handling a deal.
I'm glad you
That's
brought
the
that up,
quality that came out of
because he's the guy, Jeff, that helped me understand how to practically start investing in my IRA. And before I went to Atlanta and met him and did that, I thought it was going to be really hard. And then I realized these are just self-limiting beliefs that are holding me back. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Quincy
Yeah.
is somebody I could go on for an hour talking about.
Well, I mean,
Quincy's helped me with.
oh, Quincy would spend hours every day
Yeah.
on the phone helping people understand how to do their deal
Yeah.
in exchange for them putting their money to work through his company.
Great.
And
guy.
yeah, and it just, you know, they built a fantastic business. And that's, I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that. Just the ones that change got it.
Let's move into a little Q&A on Quest. Who's got a question? Go ahead, Paul, just unmute. There you go.
So Jeff, would you proceed with re-registering an asset from a 401k into my IRA? I'm in the process of closing down my 401k plan, solo 401k due to my retirement. So I closed my corporation. So the 401k has to be closed later this year. And I was in the process of re-registering assets. This last one has taken a bit of time with the Quest to do. I'm just wondering, since things have to be done by August 27th, I understand, is there adequate time to start a new re-registration process, do you think?
Well, are you re-registering it into a new IRA account at Quest or somewhere else?
At Quest, yes.
Okay. Here's what I would do, and I'm going to give an advanced answer because I hope, Jim, I hope this is an advanced crowd. I would do it this way. I would form an entity or trust to be owned by your existing Quest IRA. And then I would move the assets into that trust or LLC. And so that when it comes time to re-register, when IRAs takes over for Quest towards the end of this year, you're making one change on one plan document and one operating agreement, and that's it.
Okay.
I would go ahead and say, listen, I've got a Quest Trust IRA. I want that Quest Trust IRA to form an LLC or form a trust. And then I'm going to move all of the assets into that trust or LLC out of the 401k. And then you're doing retitling on one set of docs, not on all the assets.
All right, I'll give that a try. Thank you so much.
All right. You're
Awesome.
welcome.
Thanks for asking a detailed question. This is a great place to get it. Anyone else have a question right now? Just unmute. Go ahead. Take it away.
Good morning, guys. My question is, with loans that are currently outstanding where Quest is listed as the custodian, will an allonge and a transfer of lien be required to move them over, or to have SDIRA listed as the new custodian?
If that recorded mortgage or deed of trust and that note remains in as an investment, when the retitling occurs, when the change occurs, yes, you'll need to do it with an allonge and an assignment. Yes, that's how you'll do it. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science, and you know that. I mean, you've done, I bet you've probably done about 1,000 of those, haven't you? Yeah, okay. It's not rocket science. So thanks for the softball question, man.
1,000 loans. That's amazing to me. I love it.
Yeah, you don't. I know what kind of a player he is. Yeah,
I see that.
He got in with Eddie Speed and Ashley Cash and Scott Campbell and some of the other ones on this fight we've got going on in Texas. And I got great news. I'm not going to steal Eddie's thunder. I'm not going to steal Eddie's thunder. But
It's pretty exciting.
we've made some progress in that fight, and I'm very pleased. And I mean, I woke up to text messages about it. So Eddie's going to get it out when he can. Yeah.
Love it. Who else has a question? We've got time for maybe one more question here. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I'm considering using, I actually just set up Roth.
Oh,
Roth
Rebecca,
account.
you just did it in the last couple of months after Dealmaker. I felt awful.
Yeah, so I just set this up and I'm just learning how to utilize this, and I'm considering moving some funds from my Roth and my original 401k plans over to do some syndications with them. And so I'm just curious, if I do that in the next month, then, and it's through Quest, then am I going to have to change up those documents? And I'm new to a lot of this with the self-directed nature of it. Am I going to have to change those documents when Inspira, takes it all over? How does that look?
Okay. That is a really good question. And the answer is yes, you would. So I would go back to the answer I gave 2 questions past.
Okay.
To Paul.
Yeah.
And go ahead and say, okay, I got money at Quest.
Mm-hmm.
I want to form a single member LLC or a trust. I would tell you to use an LLC if you're going to invest into some syndications.
Okay.
And then move the rest of the money into that LLC through Quest, so that you've got one thing that needs to be retitled. And so when you invest in various syndications, those syndicators are not going to be able to charge you a processing fee for having to change the name.
Okay.
Okay. And I might regret doing this. But I'm going to make this offer. If you need help setting up either a trust or an LLC owned by your Quest, it's got to be owned by a current Quest account. If you need help with it, hit me up through watsoninvested.com and I'll give you a big discount doing it. I'll give you 40% off. Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I might regret that. I might get like 19 people taking advantage of me, but whatever. Okay. No, but I'll help you with that. Okay.
Rebecca is awesome. Everyone needs to get to know Rebecca because she's both a syndicator, who I happen to really love, her family, and she also likes to invest in syndications.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you like going on both sides. Jeff, you're falling into that category as well.
Yes. I've successfully been involved as a very young, wet behind the ears. I know I look really young. Wet behind the ears, co-GP on my first indication. And there's a couple more in the hopper. I'm excited about them. It's an interesting time to be in that space.
Yes, it is.
It's a really interesting time. And I'm gonna tell you flat out, folks, it's an interesting time to be a real estate investor. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the faint of heart. If you are looking for that magic, shiny, easy button, it ain't here. But if you've got some grit, if you've got some determination, if you refuse to quit, what I call RTQ, refuse to quit, then real estate investing can be very good to you.
Love it. Okay. Well, everyone needs to get to know Rebecca. Jeff, thank you for that. Let's transition a little, because Jeff and Chuck and I are doing a lending 3-day event in Orlando. This sort of happened quick too. And Jeff, this sort of started with you. You went on this all-out mission because we keep seeing people fall into fraud and things. And you said you want to, I just saw like this determination in your eyes, and you're like, let's do a 3-day event. People need to, because the returns are amazing as a lender and they're fun. I love doing wraps like Chuck does. Jeff's an amazing hard money lender. And Jeff Watson, I mean, what can I say? He's my friend and my lawyer. You just went on this like mission where you wanted to educate people on the right way to do lending. And here we are, we're coming up in 2 months. So what's been on your mind on that? Because we're pulling this off pretty quickly as well.
Is that for me or for Jeff?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, for you, Jeff Watson, because this
Oh.
started with you. You went on this like all-in mission on getting people to understand how to lend the right way.
What's going on is this. I am sick and tired of the phone calls, the emails from people saying, I put money into this deal and now I'm not getting a call back. What's going on? And I realized that they didn't understand how to do a deal correctly. They didn't understand how to do due diligence. They didn't understand how to vet both the people, the property, and the paperwork, you know, to use the 3 Ps that Jim talks about. And so I'm like, there's got to be somebody out there that'll teach this. And I looked around, I go, yep, there's nobody. They're all looking to hustle the money. They're not teaching about what to do before. And they're certainly not teaching about what to do if you did something wrong and how to fix it. And I guess one of the things that really drove that home is a few years ago, Dykes Boterford referred a doctor from Atlanta to me who'd made a loan to an investor in Cleveland, Ohio, after this doctor had taken Dykes' hard money lending class. And we knew this was the last time Dykes was going to be teaching that class. So we knew we had to start stepping into the void. I mean, Jeff Shahusky and I talked about that. And this doctor calls me, and there was a potential conflict of interest because of who this investor was. So I referred this investor to another attorney that I use on other stuff. And it turns out that this doctor, using my attorney friend, was the tip of the spear exposing a huge securities fraud, Ponzi scheme, the whole bit, where criminal charges are pending and so on. And I realized that you've got to lend not based upon the charisma of somebody, but based upon the true character of the deal. And it's not about the energy. It's not about the vibes. It's not about how good they make you feel. It's about how well do they answer your questions with facts, numbers, and pictures. And if they're not showing you, here are my deal docs. Here's the title report. You got questions? Let me hear them. If they're coming and saying, hey, I need this much money by this date of time because I'm going to give you this rate of return on it. I mean, if you're showing me the sizzle, but I can't see the steak, I'm sorry, I'm running the other way. And so that was one of the things that was going on here. And I wanted to get to it. And I looked around and I go, okay, I've taught one self-directed IRA lending class in Dallas using Quest office in Dallas, which, by the way, the lease is expired, so that's gone. And it went fine, but then I knew I didn't have a lot of passion and effort into it, and then I had to push at it. Yeah. You know what, Darlene? Sometimes they can label it as prime, and it's really not even choice. You're exactly right. Okay. But you got to know how to start digging into it to figure it out. What ranch did it come from? Who was the butcher shop that processed it? Things like that. But anyhow, so going back to this, I knew this was a passion, and this is something that Jeff Shahusky and I had talked about on several occasions. I've had the opportunity to be a component in helping him build his hard money lending business. I've been a customer. I was an advisor. I did a lot of legal work. We helped up with some of the structures and operational opportunities. And so I knew that there's a massive amount of need for quality information on how to do this. And then Jim, I'm going to wrap this up in about 3 minutes and then I'll be quiet. And then I have had back-to-back conversations with ladies, 35 to 65, 35 to 65 in that age bracket. They've got some money. They don't enjoy the thrill of management, but they want to be in real estate. The idea of actually working on a house does not appeal to some of them. I got it. I understand. They've got kids. They've got a life. They're doing things. I get it. But they know that they need to grow their money, and they don't want to go put their money with somebody who's going to charge them 1% to just stick it into a mutual fund. And so I just had a conversation in the last 72 hours with someone, and I was explaining to them that if somebody else lends 95 and you lend 5 wrapping it, and you create a 2% difference spread, what's your rate of return? And when they realize they literally in a year's time would double the 5 to 10 off of that kind of a spread, they're like, well, how do I learn about this? And I said, well, that's the event we're doing. And they're like, is it going to be all advanced stuff? I said, no, I'm going to start as if you didn't have an account. As if you didn't have, if you didn't know what a note was. It's going to be like, folks, this is a note and this is a mortgage. Let's start talking about them. You know, if you don't know how to use a financial calculator, I suggest you watch a few YouTube videos to learn how to use it, to do the basic functions. But yeah, that's my passion, because I'm watching so many people that are looking at stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs and going, ick, I don't understand it. I want to be in control. I want to be able to drive by that house that my money's into. I want to be able to see what they're doing. I want to see the siding change. I mean, that's one of the best things about Junior. I mean, Junior puts pictures up on the stuff that he's buying, fixing, reselling, and renting. You know, we get to see what he does with those deals. So yeah.
Yes, Junior, and as one of your lenders, I really appreciate that. And so do my co-lenders, so I love it. Awesome. All right, Chuck Glover, can you tell your beginning story? How did you start doing wraps? Where were you at, and how did you figure it out?
I was, well, I often liken it to being 70, excuse me, 69. I'm 75 now, so I've been lending for about 5 years, a little under 5 years. I was liking myself as being 69 years old chronologically about 5 years ago, and 20 financially. Think about a 20-year-old's financial situation. Probably no IRA or 401k or a few bucks, maybe no savings, buying a house, just got married, paying debt, maybe college loans, just not much going financially. Well, that's where I was 5 years ago as an old man. I was looking at a job, but 6-7 years ago, I was looking at maybe working at a big box store, being the greeter, or driving Uber cars or pizza delivery or something, just to put a few bucks in my pocket. But anyway, I come across real estate investing, know nothing about it, never knew anybody that was into real estate investing that I know of. No family with business experience. You work 40 years, you retire, and you're happy. Well, layoffs and divorce change all that. Then financially, you're ruined. You're shot. Everything's shot. Lose your house, lose your car. So 6 years ago, went to a meeting, heard about real estate investing. Well, I thought I'd look into it. My son shared a book with me, Cash Flow Quadrant. And after I read the book, I thought maybe this is an answer. Maybe this is something I can do, because I've always wanted to have my own business for many years. Went to this 2-hour free make money in real estate session, a guru session, where they're going to upsell you to the $800 class and then to the $20,000 class. Well, I went to the 2-hour session that was free. And one thing they said that stuck with me: go to excuse me, go to local RIA meetings. So I Googled it and went to one, and there I met a lender. I was thinking about, well, your wholesaling is where you start. Everybody starts in wholesaling. That's like the rule. How do you start in real estate investing? Wholesaling. And then you become a flipper when you start getting good wholesale deals. Well, I wasn't much of a salesman. I wasn't interested in wholesaling. I wasn't really interested in flipping, because at my age, I didn't want to chase contractors around, do hammer and nails and boards and cutting stuff. So I met a lender, and I thought maybe this is something I can do, but I didn't have any money. I didn't have much money. And then I went to a second real estate. God connects the dots. I mean, there's no question in my mind, because I went to another real estate investor meeting, and the speaker here in Richmond, and the speaker was Dorsey Boterford Cooney now. And she was talking about wrap loans, and she was showing the numbers and the deal she did. And just my mind just went bam. I said, maybe, just maybe this really is something I can do. So I took my first $5,000 and became a wrap lender. I guess 70% of my deals over the last 4.5 years have been wrap loans. So I don't profess any deep expertise or anything, but I do know what's happened in my life and in my business. And it's just it was transformational. And I've gone from being in debt, tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. We were paying several $100s a month in credit card interest payments alone. We went from that to being financially free in over the past 4.5 years. And what can I say? A deal maker had a lot to do with that. Jeff Shahusky, I think it was 2022, Jeff, you did a presentation at Jim Ingersoll's Deal Maker here in Richmond about the 5 Ps of investing. And that's where my people work little phrase I use. I'm in the people work business, not paperwork business. That's where it comes from, actually, because it was about property, people, paperwork, and profit. And then I don't remember the 5th P, but off the top of my head. But that really shaped my thinking, because lending, well, you make money. But that shaped my thinking. We're in business to help people grow their wealth, to help other people grow their wealth. And I haven't found a better way to do that. For me, excuse me. I'm sorry. I know there are other ways to do it, but for me, the best way to do that to help other people grow their wealth was through wrap lending. And that really
and that's the thing, Chuck. People think you need like $500,000 or $1 million or $5 million to be a lender.
Well, at the workshop,
$5,000.
At the workshop we're doing in Orlando, I'll have a little time to kind of expand on.
You're going to have 2 sessions.
And I'm going to use as case studies a couple of my first loans that I put out, and it was just I think one was $3,000 and one was $5,000, and how within the first 14, 15 months, I was able to double the little bit of money I had on hand. I was able to double that. So those will be case studies in Orlando.
I love it. And you guys can check it out. It's elitedealmakers.com/private-lending. All right, Jeff Suchowski, where are you? There you are. The 5 Ps.
Yep. So I actually invented the 5 Ps because of Watson. And it happened, the deal maker, before I did my presentation, we were up on a panel and we were talking about the PPP loan program from the government from COVID. And Jeff was making comments about the PPP program. And then I made essentially a smart ass comment when I was standing up there. And I said, I've been in the PPP business since long before COVID. And everybody was kind of laughing. And I'm like, yeah, it's people, right? Plus property, plus paperwork. As a lender, that's what we do. And then I took that and I realized that there's really a formula to it, which is, people plus property plus paperwork equals principal plus profit. And that's the formula that we should all be focused on all the time. And that's not just a lending formula. Because even if you're a flipper or a landlord, people are the biggest asset that you have in those projects. They're your contractors, they're your tenants, right? It's the relationships behind everything. And so, when I gave that presentation, I also said, you need to keep them in the order that I'm listing them, because keeping people first creates the relationships. Relationships create repeat business. Repeat business is way cheaper to get and way more profitable than constantly chasing everything. Right. And I learned, I learned lending by accident. I mean, that's how I got in the business. I was a flipper. I actually didn't start as a wholesaler. dumb enough to try flipping straight out of the chute. And, you know, but it was back in 2004. And I was, you know, you could get houses like they were candy back then. And so, you know, I was flipping like 10, I think I had 10 projects going at one time. And I realized a few years into it, that was a horrible idea because it's just too much to manage. And I still had a full-time job as an IT manager. And so I decided to scale that business back. And I was at one of the RIAs that Chuck's talking about, and I'm talking to the guy that leads the RIA, who was a really good friend of mine, and he's got a deal he doesn't know how to pay for. And I got private lenders now that had trusted me to do flips that no longer had deals to put their money into. So I said, well, what if I can figure out a way to get, you know, my people to work with you? You know, can we partner up on this somehow? And the easiest thing to do, just because I didn't know how to do a JV or anything. So I just said, well, I'll tell you what, you give me a couple grand and I'll hook everything up. And so we just figured it out. And then the next thing you know, my friend tells another friend who becomes another borrower. And then, you know, some of the private lenders started telling their friends, and then they became more private lenders. And pretty soon a hard money lending company was born. And, you know, the company is really, you know, it's a little different than a lot of them out there, but, you know, I try to sit in the middle and help figure out all the deals. Like I'm doing deal analysis with borrowers. I'm doing deal analysis for lenders so that people with cash can get into deals without having to be the flipper or the landlord, right? You kind of get the best of both worlds. And, you know, been doing this now for 15 years as a lender. And Watson and I started this conversation about this private lending class we're doing, I don't know, probably 3-4 years ago. And schedules and, you know, Jeff's crazy travel. And, you know, I was running 3 national masterminds and all kinds of other stuff. And I was on the road 6 months a year as well. And so our schedules just never lined up.
Sometimes, Jeff, the curl sort of gets in the way.
Yeah. And, you know, the truth is the pain that we were both feeling, because both of us were getting calls from people who were having problems with things going wrong. But the pain didn't get bad enough where the two of us gave it enough priority, sadly to say. And, you know, it's almost embarrassing to a certain extent. And so, you know, both of us have just dealt with enough helping of other people that you get to that point where it's like, okay, now we really need to step up. You know, my friend Bill Cook's been harping on me for probably 8 years to get up and start teaching and, you know, share the stuff that Dykes has taught me and the stuff that I've learned on my own and, you know, just growing a business and, you know, sharing all that stuff. Well,
Bill is coming, by the way.
What's that?
Bill is coming, who I love hanging out with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we have to put a muzzle on him though, because otherwise he'll be disruptive. Because I'm one of his favorite whipping boys. He loves to pick on
Oh,
me.
I know. I love it. I love it too.
Yeah. So anybody that's been around Bill and I, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And we, unfortunately, both of our senses of humor, you know, dropped down to about the age of 12, 13 years old. So it's, you know, it's funny to watch the two of us. But yeah, you know, so, you know, now it's just that time where, you know, we all gotta kind of step forward. And as Jeff and I talked about it, we're like, you know, we really need to partner up with Jim. Jim's doing some stuff that we're not doing, and that kind of helps to round things out. And then Chuck gets added in because Chuck's doing stuff that, you know, is part of what all of us are doing. And between the 4 of us, I think we have pretty much the entire gamut covered of what borrowers go through and what lenders go through.
I mean, thousands of deals. I know I've bought and sold over 1,000 houses. You've probably done well more than 5,000 loans, Jeff, I'm guessing.
No, not quite 5, but I'm north of 2.
It's a lot. Jeff Watson, I mean, thousands again.
You know, you're muted, Watson. You're not.
I don't keep track of how many airline miles I fly, and I don't keep track of how much Chick-fil-A I eat. I keep track of my points, but I don't keep track of my deals either. I don't. I'm just,
you
It's a
know,
lot though.
there's a lot of us that are keeping track of your Chick-fil-A for you though. So
I'm gonna take like the borrower side too, because I'm also a borrower and have been for a long time.
yeah,
So if you're trying to raise money responsibly, then I'm gonna give tips on that. I remember a deal maker, Jeff, I made the announcement that you had this big goal of like $10 million for your fund. I made the announcement, and later that day you hit the goal. Sometimes it's as simple as letting people know what you're trying to achieve and how they can participate.
Yeah. Yeah, the rooms that we play in, the people that we network with, you just never know where anything is. So you know, you need to be a part of a community and share. You know, it's important.
Yep, so we're going to do that. It's elitedealmaker.com /private-lending. All right. And I'll tell you what, I just love being around Chuck Glover. His story of starting at 69 and a half and becoming financially free, and then how you're now living your life. Chuck, you spent almost a month in Africa. You and I got to know each other really well in Nicaragua last year. We had breakfast like last week. I mean, it was pretty awesome. So I just love being around you, and your heart for people is so good. I think we got to make Jeff see a new T-shirt based on his 5 Ps. I'm just saying, I think it'd be a lot of fun. So join us there. Jeff Watson, any kind of closing words? I wanted to keep this at about an hour.
I do have a couple of closing words, and that is this. Every day, I am more and more aware that the quality, depth, and quantity of my network is a fundamental and foundational aspect of my success, both current and future. That network is not just by how many people I meet, but the quality of the people that I meet and the character and capacity of them and their business. And so if you're looking to get started in an area that is very well suited to self-directed IRAs, if you're looking to do something like Chuck talked about, start with just a few $1,000s and maybe in 5-7 years change your family's financial situation, this is a must-attend event. If you're the type of person that is like, okay, I'm doing deals, I think I'm doing them great, but maybe I'm missing something that's costing me $500 here and $500 there, the event's going to help you save some money. The next thing is this. If you're like me and you're either lending, borrowing, or doing paperwork on a private loan almost every day of the week, this is where you need to be. This is going to be your tribe, your collection, your coalition, so to speak. And finally, if you're saying to yourself, well, I don't have any money to lend, I don't know what I'm doing, but I really want to get a couple of good deals and see if I can flip them and make some money, if I want to wholesale them, whatever it is, you need to learn how to become the best possible borrower.
Mm-hmm.
You need to learn how to position yourself to where you stand out among all of the other hungry birds chirping for money. You need to learn what is a good deal. You need to learn how to package it as a good deal. You need to learn how to document it as a good deal. You need to learn how to run the process. Because do not drive a lender crazy by asking them to help you get property and casualty insurance. Do not drive a lender crazy by saying, well, what does this mean? And so on. No, we're going to teach you how to borrow money the right way. So yeah, you need to be there. You need to be there, period. And I'm sorry, but Quincy's texting me about something right now, so I'm going to pay attention to that.
We were just talking about him. All right. Did you guys enjoy the Dealmaker Community Zoom today? On a scale of 0 to 10, was it helpful? 0 meaning it was a waste of time. 10 meaning it was really helpful today. I kind of like the idea of doing this again. It was sort of fun. All right, got a lot of 10s. I love it. All right, guys, I did record this. Oh my gosh, there's so many friends on here. It's good to see you guys. And I will send it out to you and post it to our group as well. Jeff, Chuck, it's great to see you guys. Have an awesome day. And go out there and make some deals. It's not that hard. Just go out there and build your networks, build your deal flow, and make it happen. See you guys later.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
See ya.